everyone. It's Carissa.
And Alex.
And you say it so funny when you do it. You do it like Ocean Connections back in the day.
Yeah, that was a solid series, just saying.
Welcome back to another episode, guys. This is Sustainability in the Sea, a podcast for ocean people by ocean people, produced and hosted by FutureSwell. I'm Carissa, your co-host.
And I'm Alex. And here's Riley.
And Riley's always here, and we are back committed to the video moment. So if you want to watch this, I envision people putting it on their living room and sitting on their couch and watching.
I like it.
I like it too. I did that for a podcast last night, and it was a next level soothing.
Cool.
So we don't have a guest today.
It's just us.
We're going to implement some more one-on-one, some more personal anecdotes into sustainability in the sea this year. And I see you guys. I know you want weekly episodes. We're overwhelmed.
Yeah. Maybe one day.
Maybe after the legislative session.
Ooh. All right. So what's today's topic going to be on?
We're going to do ocean advice. To give you a little bit of, and I think probably if you're listening to this, you've probably done this for us before, but we get emails from you, we get DMs from you. A lot of you are using the Q&A feature here on the episode if you're listening on Spotify.
Mm-hmm.
And we just thought it would be an awesome way to engage the future swellies in the episode by answering your questions live.
Yeah, so ask questions if you have any. We're happy to
via
answer.
any of those platforms. So you can DM us, FutureSwell account, or Sustainability in the Sea Instagram. Don't do Carissa and Climate.
Things might get lost.
It will not be seen. And then we're going to answer them on the show. And one of the reasons I wanted to do this segment was because you guys ask a lot of the same stuff. And so if we answer it here, hopefully you can get your questions proactively answered by listening to these. So this is going to be called Ocean Advice, second sub-series of Sustainability in the Sea, baby. We have Stoked on Solutions, and now we've got Ocean Advice. So let's get into it. Welcome back to Sustainability and the Sea.
All right, so the first question we have is from Jacqueline. And so she sent an email not too long ago.
Where's she from? Don't know.
Don't know. Sorry, Jacqueline. I'm sure you put it in the email, but I took some notes on some of these questions, and my bad.
Yay.
Next time we'll get some locations in there. Okay, so what are your ideas on how to protect the marine ecosystems in 2024?
Oh.
Just starting off strong.
Really?
Thanks,
That
Jacqueline.
is her question? Wow,
Yeah.
What a thoughtful question. I have one input.
Yeah.
I think that all ocean conservation or marine protections, which is a little different than conservation, protective measures need to be led by local communities on the bottom. So those are called bottom-up approaches. I think that there can be top-down measures, which would be like policy or like directions, but they need to be met in the middle because it's looking like now that we have a better understanding of how marine protected areas work in different areas of the world, that they're not really sustainable or resilient unless there's buy-in from the community where the protected area is. They've gotten this like note of like paper parks, like marine protected areas are like paper parks because they're just like protected on paper, but there's not like rule following or buy-in because the community didn't play an active role in building the protections. And so in 2024, I think that all marine protected areas and protected management measures should have a really strong, if not primary, pillar of community engagement, leadership, and execution.
Nice, that's a good one. I want to add too, like the implementations that are going in have to be enforceable. Like there's no point in having like all of these rules if they're not enforceable, which then no one's going to follow them.
What would be like an example of that? What do you mean?
Like, for example, there's a lot of high seas treaties, but there's not a lot of...
There's one.
Okay, sorry. There's one high seas treaty, but there's not a lot of enforcement on the high seas just because the ocean is so vast. And it's like you don't have Coast Guard or the equivalent from other countries that are patrolling all of these areas to catch the perpetrators. And so, like, I think that is an important aspect of it as well. And obviously we have to make things like the High Seas Treaty. We have to work towards this, like, ultimate goal. But having the rules and stuff be enforceable, I think is a big a big factor in things.
Yeah, I think that's another, like the High Seas Treaty is an example of like a top-down thing, and so having the buy-in at the bottom. But yeah, we don't have like ocean police. We're not policing the ocean, especially like outside of waters of national jurisdiction in the open ocean. So,
and it goes for like nearshore stuff too. It's like it's not enforceable if there's not like law enforcement out there. Then who's going to follow the rules?
And then also, I think we could do like a million of these, but maybe we just keep it to a few. I think talking about issues like plastic pollution, which obviously plagues our oceans, right? I think there is an obligation in 2024 to talk about it as not an individual issue. I think individuals play a role in plastic demand, but ultimately petrochemical companies are the ones that are uplifting the plastic pollution industry, and really just looking at who is running these industries when we talk about threats, because the petrochemical industries are not just creating plastic that's harming the ocean. They're also criminals of environmental justice crimes that are harming vulnerable communities all over the world, that are causing health impacts on these communities, particularly underserved communities or communities of color. And I just think that looking at these issues that impact the ocean from also an intersectional lens is extremely important in 2024, if you're not already doing that.
Yeah, I agree. It's all systemic.
Okay, one more.
Let's go on next question. We got
question.
A lot of questions.
Sorry, great question, Jacqueline.
Okay, so this is another one by Jacqueline, kind of like a follow-up. So we kind of touched on it a little bit.
Okay.
But what are some steps that should be taken by both individuals and societies to ultimately protect marine life in our ocean?
Right. So I think in my old age, as your ocean conservation auntie or big sister, protect is, I like take it as literal meaning. Like, are we implementing protections, or are we implementing conservation and management? And so I think she probably means it more generally, like how to, uplift ocean health, how to recover the ocean. I think that we have a huge, it's so hard. I think that on an individual level, I'm not gonna be the girl that tells you like these zero waste things. I think there's awesome people who do that, and I encourage you to go follow them and learn from them. But I think that ultimately we have a role to understand how different systems are connected to the ocean. So a good example is like how the fast fashion industry implements impacts waterways, and then ultimately impacts coastal ecosystems in the ocean. Like, for example, like dyeing a pair of jeans is super water intensive, and also the chemical dyes are extremely harmful, and all that runoff goes to the ocean and kills reefs and threatens the marine life that are in the area. And I think as an individual, expanding your understanding of how the issues are connected will empower you to make more individual choices. So like it's hard to be like, I'm just gonna get clothes that are made from recycled plastic, and it's like, that's great, and let's also talk about how like maybe one of the most strategic individual choices you can make is to make sure you're getting your jeans secondhand, because the chemical dyes and the water intensity of creating new jeans is so high. So that's just an example. I don't know. Nice. What do you think?
I would also add like being able to speak up and advocate is like a really important one.
Oh yeah, you've come around.
I'm here. We're going to the state capitol in 2 weeks or something, so
we're really on an advocacy train. Every year we think we're gonna leave it,
and I don't necessarily only mean like legislative advocacy as well. It could be like advocacy to companies and just standing up.
What would that look like as an individual behavior?
It could be like writing letters. It could be like signing petitions or joining campaigns. Things like that.
I think one of a really cool example is sometimes, and I see these, few and far between, I wish there would be more, it'll be like, here's a video on social media calling out like a company, right? And then the call to action is like tag the company. And that way the social media manager from the company ends up like maybe moving it up the chain if a ton of people tag them, and like just really calling the perpetrators out instead of individuals.
That's advocacy in a way.
I think that's advocacy. Yeah, I think it's a good dip your toe into advocacy.
Yeah. You need to get as aggressive as you want to be.
Yeah, choose your voice.
Yeah, exactly.
In the movement. Thanks, Jacqueline.
Yeah, nice questions. All right, so next we have Isabella, and she says, what type of professions or positions are there in the field of conservation? So we've answered this on other Sustainability the Sea podcast episodes before, but we'll kind of touch into it real quick.
Was it frequently? I'm just gonna plug. You should go listen to frequently asked questions for aspiring marine biologists.
It's tips for aspiring marine biologists, and then we also have one that's called Our Paths that talks about how we did it, but then also about other ways that there are to do it that we didn't necessarily do.
I feel really overwhelmed with this question. I don't know what to say. Like, there's so many different niches being opened up now as we speak because of more need and more resources and more inclusion.
Yeah. And it's like, it's truly like limitless right now. It's like we are seeing people create positions for themselves, either within companies or nonprofits, or just starting it themselves as like a freelance consultant on things that they think are needed. And so like I think we go back to the same messaging, which is like use the skills that you already have and the things that you already like to do, and then build from there.
Yeah, but like in general, there's like an academia, research, science, knowledge building pillar where you conduct research and those types of things, and you can go work with governments or nonprofits or institutions. Or there's like organizational work where like you want to be like working with a nonprofit organization, getting your hands dirty. We're talking field technicians, or we're talking, nonprofits are a really good example of a place where you can explore different opportunities. Like you can go into admin, you can go into grant writing, or you can work with your hands and be off a computer. And then there's like the over broadening niche of storytelling, which is where I think a lot of our work falls into. But also I always bring up Hannah, our marketing manager, who is a marketer. And she is just like, I'm only going to be working for people who are doing ocean work, though. And so she's creating this niche of like ocean specialized marketing and storytelling, which is a huge need and a very common job that we see and showcase on the Ripple.
Yeah, it is.
Our newsletter.
Nice. All right, nice question. Okay, now it's from Ruthie. So Ruthie is, I think she said
goals.
She was 15. So she's super young. So she goes, hey, just a kid interested in marine biology. How do you get to where you are now? Did you go to college? So again, that would be more extensively covered in our Paths episode. But as a quick overview, we both went to college.
We did. We went to college.
We both went to grad school as well.
I feel like, I don't know if Ruthie isn't saying this, so I'm not going to put words in her mouth, but like, don't compare yourself to us. We're like 10 years into our career, and don't think that you need to be where we are now, because your time will come and it's chipping away at it every year, every few months, and you're going to look back at a certain point in your career and you're going to be like, wow, I've come so far. And so, there was a big winding road, which is detailed in Our Paths, but ultimately, like, we did go to college. I went in state in a landlocked state because I had a scholarship to do so, and I wasn't in a financial position to pass on a full ride scholarship. And I pursued my bachelor's in evolutionary and ecological biology, and then when I was halfway done with my bachelor's, they actually added a minor in marine science, and I added that and did that in the last 2 years. And I went to the University of Arizona.
Nice. Yeah, my piece of advice would just be make the most of whatever opportunities that come to you, whether it be volunteerships or internships, or in school if you want to focus on ocean projects in school and stuff like that. So it's like you can start to tailor kind of where you want to go as early as you want, really. Or you could not show up to college and not really be like, I want to work in ocean conservation, but not really have those like foundational soft skills, and that's going to put you in a different place than somebody who really like kind of tried to orient themselves.
I think Gabby said that on one of our first episodes. She was like, it was the soft skills all along.
Yeah.
And anyway, we refer back to that a lot.
Thanks for the question, Ruthie. So next question is from Andrea, and she says, hi, I'm 36. What can someone like me do to pivot into a fulfilling career in conservation? Any insight would be appreciated.
Great. So, first of all, proud of you. There's nothing like a fulfilling career.
Yeah, it makes it all worth it.
I think that, candidly, like, we really do need to talk about this from the lens of financial stability. Mm-hmm. So, my first, if I were doing this, right, I would for sure prioritize, this is just my opinion, this is not, like, Yeah. I would for sure prioritize, like, an emerging part of the field. So something that you don't need to go back to school for. You can, if you're like, I really want to be a scientist, I really want to study the ocean. That might require you going back to school. But say you're, hypothetically, okay, say she's in a corporate job where she does public relations or admin or whatever. I would start volunteering with an ocean aligned organization that's in your community that has, like, you know, not a huge time demand. Find out if you like them, and then, like, as you go to more and more events with them and engage with them and get to know their leadership, like, talk to them about the skills that you have and the skills you want to offer and get their advice on it, and then see if the financial transition is feasible for you. If you're working corporate, making a ton of money, going to a nonprofit might not be feasible for you.
It's tough.
Especially if you know, are, like, supporting a family or have other dependents. And so making sure that but I would just, like, in order to save yourself the time and energy and money of not going back to school, I would just really take the skills that you're currently doing in your role and try to translate those into a need within an institution or organization. And I think we're seeing this a lot the more I talk to people. Like, you know, we're partners with Only One, and, like, a lot of their leadership staff, like, came from alternate backgrounds, tech, user experience, corporate, and, like, that stuff's really valuable. And if you go to, like, a larger nonprofit or an institution or even an ocean-minded company, you might, like, be able to have, like, matching salaries if you were to transition.
Cool.
Does that answer her question?
I would think so. And yeah, I think we have an example of somebody that you, one of the clients that you work with, who didn't work in conservation, but did a lot of admin stuff. She had kids, so she took a break from work, and she, like, wanted to re-enter the workforce, and now she works
on admin.
Yeah, on admin for an environmental nonprofit, an ocean nonprofit, and how fulfilling is that?
Yeah.
So, just use the skills that you already have. All right, next question.
Unless you want to go back to school and you're, like, just dying to just get back in that classroom. Otherwise, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so this is from Carissa, a different Carissa. Another Carissa with the C, which is cool.
One R's or two?
I spelled it with one, but
because of
I could have
people are named Carissa.
Yeah, pretty cool. Okay, so she said, "Hi, I came across your page on TikTok and I love the ocean and fish. I was wondering what you do for a living, and what your job is like, and how can I get started on something like this?"
Oh, yeah. Okay.
It's a loaded question.
Yeah, why'd you pick this one, Alex?
Sorry, I thought it was a good one.
It is a good one. Okay, hi Carissa, I'm Carissa. My TikTok is my biggest page, and it's mostly a pathway to inspire curiosity and inspiration in all of you ocean-minded people. And I don't do a great job on the page of actually talking about what my day-to-day is like, because it's mostly the first entrance, right? It's like for people like you, Carissa, who are like, I just love the ocean, so I found you, and now I'm curious more. And so this podcast and blog posts and things like that are really meant for the deep dives. And I work in building ocean conservation solution programs, which is a huge umbrella term for a lot of different infrastructure things. I am not someone who's diving for work. I'm not someone who, like, I would sometimes, but that's not what my primary role is. It's like an extra. I'm not someone who, like, is a field technician, but I do a lot of development-based work. So I write grants, I build programs, I support teams in implementation and execution. I bring a lot of ideas to the table. I'm a consultant. FutureSwell is a consulting firm in addition to a storytelling hub, and we work with clients to execute ocean solutions. So, like, a really good example is, like, right now we're working with a coalition, I love coalitions, of 20 organizations to implement an Ocean Advocacy Day at the Capitol here in Hawaii. So I would say we're doing kind of a lot of event planning skills, even though that's not really in our wheelhouse.
Yeah.
But what I'm doing is I'm taking this wonderful idea that this coalition had, and I'm providing structure and detail and organization to the idea so that it can happen in a hopefully seamless way.
Yeah, so ultimately a lot. We do a lot. Carissa does a lot.
Alex produces the videos.
And
and so much more.
And so much more, always. So
that admin stuff, it's him.
That's what we do. And how can you get involved in something like this? It's starting off with finding out what you like and then just progressing into that, I guess.
I think I ended up in a consulting format because I know that I wanted to do different things all the time. I wanted to help a lot of different initiatives, and I wanted my time and choices of what I was doing for work to be my own. And that wasn't something I learned till I was around 27. And so consulting isn't for everybody. And I think that ultimately you just need to get to know yourself.
Yeah, big question. So maybe one day we'll do a podcast about kind of like everything that FutureSwell does. Okay. Next question. So this one was asked on our Spotify, which is cool.
Shout out Spotify.
Use those. So Mary asked, what is some advice for networking in the environmental and marine conservation space?
Bruh, I got some. You go first, though.
Showing up, 2 things, is number 1.
Going to the networking opportunities.
Yeah, conferences. You guys in Hawaii, they're called pauhanas, which means like after work events.
You guys, parties. There's one today. I have to go to one in 4 hours, and I'm so tired. We have so much to do, and I was like, no. It feels good to meet new people who care about the same stuff as you.
Mm-hmm. And that's all of the work, at least here for us, is word of mouth. And so it's like meeting these people, telling them what you do,
asking them what they do,
and like,
finding your overlap.
And then it's like,
and having fun.
If you have an opportunity and you're like, oh, I think Ellie would be good for this, or vice versa, or something like that.
Shout out Ellie.
But yeah, anything else?
I would like to just underscore that I don't really know how the way it works in other states, but I just, at this point, we're just called personally for work. There are no job descriptions.
Yeah. So
there's no job postings.
The bigger network that you can have, the better. Just
what does your debt brother always say? Your network is your net worth. Not in ocean conservation, because there's not really a big net worth, but you get the picture, right? You get the picture.
That's the gist.
Wait. I want to say what my tips for networking is.
Oh yeah.
My tips for networking is have a business card. They have digital ones. You can also, if people have if you both have iPhones, you can airdrop your contact card. But ultimately, you want to make sure that they're empowered with your. If you have a really great conversation, you don't want to be like, I'll email you. And I always put depending on the conversation, the relationship, I will follow. You just have a list of people you follow up with. Mm-hmm. I would really hype yourself up before, especially if you're someone who can be socially anxious or you are feeling resistant to going. Bring a friend who works in the space.
That's a good one.
Alex will always drink caffeine, and
we're talking that way.
And just really know that what you're here to do. And then something that I learned from a lot of my incredible climate creator colleagues is if you're going to somewhere like a conference where you have a list of the other people who are going, you should look them up on LinkedIn before, and that way you could maybe even go in for it with a strategy. Something that they taught me was what is your goal for today? And it's tonight, my goal for this Pauhana is to meet people. It's not, but nice. What if your goal is to get a contract? What if your goal is to find an investor? Mm-hmm. What if your goal is to establish some speaking opportunities for yourself? Really get clear and then make a plan with flexibility, and then show up as yourself. Don't lie about who you are, and don't be afraid to brag about yourself. For all those, I know we have a lot of female listeners or folks that identify as female, and truthfully, we really need to be bragging about ourselves more. So take up space because you deserve it.
Nice. That was a good one. Thanks, Mary. All right, and so for our last question is from Abs, also on Spotify.
Abs.
Yeah.
Wow, all female names.
Yeah, that's cool.
The girls.
The girls are out. She said, I would like to learn about what to specialize in high school and college, along with some college recommendations and internship recommendations.
Oh. Do you specialize in high school? I don't think you specialize in high school. Focus on your foundations.
Kids nowadays are way more advanced than we were. I was talking about a high school science fair the other day to one of my coworkers, and they were telling me about this project that I was like, I don't even know if I could do that now. They were coding, they were doing all this stuff, and I was like, JavaScript, what? Like,
Okay.
So
Okay.
maybe they do. True. Maybe they do. But okay, more so in college and beyond. How and what do you specialize in? And what's some advice for college and internships?
Well, I think that like listening to podcasts like this is a good starting point because you don't know, you have to know what's out there and what the options are if you're going to like make an informed decision about what you're going to specialize in, especially at a young age. Don't be afraid to pivot and turn to another course because that's inevitable as well. And then for me in college specifically, I like joined a club and I really wanted, you guys hearing that beautiful bird in the background? And so I wonder if it's...
Yeah, it's being picked up.
Being cute. But for college for me, like I obviously was landlocked, but I joined this ocean conservation club because there was one, yay. And I really wanted to do the social media and storytelling because of who I am as a person, but they didn't have the opportunity. And so they asked me to be the education and outreach coordinator for the club, and I said yes because I wanted to be involved, even though I was truthfully at the time a little bit disappointed. And ultimately, I've been doing education and outreach now for the past 12 years because of that decision and making sure like that if I hadn't said yes to that, I wouldn't have ended up on this path where I have education and outreach skills. And so understanding that look at the opportunities that are in your area, whether it's your high school or college or nonprofit organization, and then going from there to try different positions. I had a lot of different roles in college. I worked at a planetarium. I worked at a bird and bunny rehabilitation center. It was only 3 months, but I learned a lot during that. And because I was like, oh, if I want to do rehab in the future, like I should have a little bit of experience. And it was gnarly, but the fact that I only did it for 3 months, I worked at a zoo for 3 months, and I did these short-term things with the club being the long-term thing, and it really allowed me to dip my toes into a lot of different areas.
Nice, that's good advice.
What about you? Oh, and like how do you find internships? And she said, what recommended colleges and internship positions?
I feel like I say this all the time, but college is kind of what you make of it. It's not necessarily a specific college. Like, there's not going to be like, oh, this is the best college for marine conservation. That's not really how it works. It's, do you put in the time and effort and want to get involved?
Yeah.
So that's my number one. And then for finding things like internships and stuff, online newsletters is a great one. We have the Ripple, obviously, we have Blue Opportunities.
And asking, like, the labs or organizations that you're with.
Asking the labs.
They might not... I think a lot of our current intern, we didn't have an internship posting, but...
just reaching out.
Yeah, she came with, like, an idea and a project, and I remember feeling like the email, I was like, wow, she got an idea, she wants to execute the idea, and, like, okay.
That's a good piece of advice, too. It's, like, it's one thing to reach out and ask, oh, do you have any internships? Because if they don't, then it's like end of story. But if you come with an idea, you're more likely for them to at least hear you out. So it's like, do you have any internships? I was thinking of doing something along these lines if this matches with your mission or something like that. Yeah. So.
And then the last thing I want to say about this is we did an interview with John Halvin. He creates content under Marine Bio John, and he's doing a PhD on sharks in Florida. I'm not sure if the episode will be out at the time that this episode is out, but if not, it's definitely coming out in the next few months. And so he said something that really truthfully resonated with me, and that I'm going to definitely say whenever I'm asked this question, with credit to him, of course. And it's that I don't know if it matters that much what college you go to. For marine biology, people always say, like, get to a coast. And I think at some point that's important, especially maybe for the last degree that you choose. But everyone finds their own path to it. But what he said was that the best school for you and the best program for you is the one that checks off boxes for you that aren't just related to your career and marine biology. So if you are extremely close with your family, if you know that you want to raise a family in a certain town, if you know that your best friend is someone that you want to be in the same community, those are boxes too for your program, and you don't need to be getting to Hawaii or Florida to be a marine biologist, you can do it in a place that also brings you fulfillment for the long term, because we've been talking a lot about networking and how the skills and relationships that you build at the beginning of your career can really catapult you into the next phase of your career. And truthfully, moving in the middle of that can like delay some momentum, and it's not impossible at all. Everyone does it. A lot of people do it. But if you've got a plan for yourself, like you're like, I ultimately know I want to end up here, then why don't you factor that into some of the decisions that you're making, and don't feel like you have to go. A certain school isn't going to make you successful.
That's great advice.
Wasn't it?
Good way to put it, John.
Go, John.
Yeah. And so with that, that's all the questions we have for today.
Are those all the questions? This has been Ocean Advice. I hope that was helpful.
Yeah, I know.
Do you think that was helpful for them?
I would think so.
Let's do more.
Yeah, so keep asking your questions. We'll compile them. I'll put where you're from this time.
Oh, yeah, and then if you don't want us to talk about it openly, you can submit it anonymously. So
yeah, that works.
But we love you guys, and we just want to help, and I hope that this podcast is a safe space for you to explore your interests and to love the ocean, and thanks for listening.
Thank you. See you next time.
Yeah.